But actually what happened was I had a pretty profound experience. I started to feel the energy moving through my hands. I started picking up information, if you like, about the other people in the group. It was like, because I was pretty cynical until that point. I'm a bit of a scientist and I like things to be proven. And here I was sitting in this lady's front room with this energy flowing out of my hands. And I remember sitting there thinking, hold on a minute, if this is true, which it is because I can feel it, what have I been missing out on?
Wow, that's an incredible journey.
So I love what you said about that time isn't linear and everything's there. And when you're in the Akashic Records, you really feel that everything is just here and happening in the moment. But you can think of the field, if we speak about it like conceptually, like what it is a field that contains everything that you as a soul has ever done. And so you can imagine, like, even now as we're having this conversation, yes, we're having a conversation, but we're also got all our thoughts sitting behind it. We have our emotions, we have our past experiences. You're probably thinking about the next thing to say. You're thinking about how it came up. Like, all of this stuff is happening and all of that is being recorded in this field in every moment and every day. And I got very curious as to why we have a field that contains everything, because that's quite a curious question, right? Because you look back and you see this golden thread that runs through the life, like, oh, this is who I was. This happened for the reason it happened. This is what I learned from this. This is what I'm moving into. This is how that challenge helped to strengthen my talent. This is how my talent helped me move through my challenge.
That's incredible because it makes sense, because I would imagine that everything we do is imprinted in some form, and it makes sense that it would be this Akashic record, because a lot of people will speak about it in terms of, okay, I'm going to tap into this and I'm going to heal this past life, but it's more than that. It's almost this energetic lattice of evolutionary healing and the understanding behind every experience we have and the lessons behind it. It's almost like seeing it from that bird's eye view, the soul or spiritual perspective, and seeing it from a different lens and perhaps, okay, here's why this happened. And then when we're kind of tapping into this energetic field, I'm wondering, is there a way of navigating that if you're just getting into this?
I'm going to give an answer that's probably different to if you spoke to anybody else. Because from what I've learned about the field and what generally comes up is, I'm working with the Akashic Records because I want to tap into a past life. And yes, it's an incredible resource to be able to tap into past lives, but I don't think it's the only thing, and I don't think it's the most powerful thing we can do.
Welcome to the Mind, Body, Spirit podcast. I'm here with Melissa Amos. She's a spiritual psychotherapist and the founder of Akashic Reiki. So thank you so much for being on the show. You're doing so much for the audience and helping so many people out. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive into your awakening journey. We're going to dive into what Akashic Reiki is, perhaps even having a sample session so people can understand what that looks like, and maybe even get into the evolution of healing and see where the conversation flows. So if you would like to share just a little bit about yourself and your awakening journey, that'd be amazing.
So I was really lucky because as a child, my grandma was a hypnotherapist. So when I was like this big, my grandma used to sit me on her couch and take me on these journeys for no reason, like not to fix anything, not to kind of, for any point, but just to really help me understand that my mind is more creative and more malleable than I think you're normally taught. So from a very young age, I've been really interested in the mind-body connection and how our thoughts create our actions. But life goes on, right? And I found myself in a corporate job doing all the things that I had to do, that I was meant to be doing. I loved it and hated it in equal measure. And then it was back in 2008, I would say Reiki found me. I was super stressed. I had a session. I didn't know I was having a session. I just felt this heat and this like peace wash over me. I was like, what was that? And she went, oh, it was Reiki. And I was like, okay. So a few weeks later, I found myself on a course just out of curiosity. I thought that someone was just going to be like waving their hands over me and I would just have like a nice weekend of incense and soup. But actually what happened was I had a pretty profound experience. I started to feel the energy moving through my hands. I started picking up information, if you like, about the other people in the group. I was like, because I was pretty cynical until that point. I'm a bit of a scientist and I like things to be proven. And here I was sitting in this lady's front room with this energy flowing out of my hands. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, hold on a minute. If this is true, which it is, because I can feel it, what have I been missing out on? And I'm a very curious mind. I'm a bit of a geek. I like to know everything about everything. And so it dove me into this journey of, well, what else is out there? And for me, that started with obviously the Reiki and the energy healing, but I got really interested in the law of attraction and how so I already knew my thoughts can help me change my actions, but now I'm being told my thoughts can create my reality. And I'm a scientist, so I played with it. And as I played with it, I was like, wow, I was manifesting free Disney tickets and like things, experiences. The weather was changing. All of this stuff was happening. And I was like, no, I'm onto something. And, I think I was lucky. I think a lot of people are coming through these like really quick awakenings now. I think the consciousness is rising. And so people are kind of finding it and then they're doing 5 years work in like 5 minutes. I think I was quite lucky that it was all the way back then. It was like the pre-2012 kind of shift. And so I could, play and meander along with it. And as the journey progressed, it was 2016, I found the Akashic Records, which are your soul's library. I won a session. It was really random. Never heard of them. And I went in this field and actually the woman that took me through asked me to read my own records. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had the most visceral and deep experience of my life. It awakened in me who I now know myself to be, as a teacher, as a mystic. And I think it's from that day, I really felt like I had found my path and found my place in the world.
Oh wow. That's an incredible journey. And
Mm.
and I've heard of the Akashic Records. Would it be, you could call it an energetic field that we could tap into, and it has access to, let's say, all of our, let's call them soul extensions, and imagine these as aspects of your spirit, and each of these has lived lives, and we could call them past lives, but in reality, I would probably say parallel lives because everything occurs simultaneously in these maybe higher dimensions would be a way of putting that. But time is it's an illusion. It's not the truth, and everything is just occurring in the here and now. So tapping into that, is it just simply your focus and intention and just kind of feeling what comes up? And then how can we start to heal, let's say, these past lives that perhaps are leading to certain patterns in our life that are showing up, and perhaps it's from a past life or a parallel life. How do we tap into that?
So I love what you said about that time isn't linear and everything's there. And when you're in the Akashic Records, I think you really feel that, right? That everything is just here and happening in the moment. But you can think of the field, if we speak about it like conceptually, like what it is a field that contains everything that you as a soul has ever done. right? And so you can imagine, like, even now as we're having this conversation, yes, we're having a conversation, but we've got all our thoughts sitting behind it. We have our emotions, we have our past experiences. You're probably thinking about the next thing to say. You're thinking about how it came up. Like, all of this stuff is happening, and all of that is being recorded in this field in every moment and every day, right? Why is that interesting? I mean, I got very curious as to why we have a field that contains everything, because that's quite a curious question, right? But let's say it's true. Why is this significant? Well, if you can imagine that if you're reading a book, you can have a story which you begin to understand the character. You begin to understand what makes them tick. You begin to understand how maybe their past experiences are helping them make future decisions, right? And some of them are great. Some of them are powerful and strong. And, we learn the things and we get the wisdom, and now, we become the person. And oftentimes there's also other stuff going on, right? The thing that happened to us that we can't let go of, the thing that happened to us that led us to create a story about ourselves, right? The thing that happened to us that led us to believe that the world is dangerous, right? Or that we can't do, or we can do certain things. And from where I see it from an Akashic Records point of view, is these experiences are constantly feeding us information. And they're all being held in, like, the emotions that we were feeling at the time, right? So shame, guilt, anger, fear, love, joy, peace, whatever, right? So depending on how they were, like, coded in our field will depend on how they're delivered back to us, which helps us make choices in the moment. Yeah. And so this is how the past, and we live on Earth, we live in a linear time zone, right? How our past is influencing our present, and how our present is influencing the future, right? You asked, how do we tap into it? Well, we're always tapping into it, because I'm always coding into it. I'm constantly, right now in this moment, I'm writing in it. And maybe our thoughts, our memories, the things that are bringing up, but even this conversation is being channeled through somewhere. And perhaps it's this field, right, that holds everything that we are, right? That's feeding me, oh, this is important. Bring up this memory, that memory of me sitting on my grandma's couch, right? It lives somewhere. It doesn't live in my brain. It lives somewhere, right? So it's feeding back to me. So we're constantly tapping into it. And there's different layers, because we're not constantly going into our childhood. We're not constantly going into our past lives. And certainly when I learned the Akashic Records, there was, and this was 10 years ago, there was a lot of mystery that surrounded them. There's a lot of practices, a lot of protocols. I learned through a pathway prayer. I've also journeyed even through Reiki, through some shamanic practices. And, some people teach through different ceremonies, because we're moving into, if you like, deeper layers of the records, right? But why would we do it? And this is where it gets interesting. So I am a trained psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. And one of the things that we learn is past life regression. Yeah. But the Akashic Records is not past life regression. The Akashic Records are this field that, as we tap into, as we deepen in, as we go back into who we were, for example, or what is written in there, you're met by this field of unconditional love, of non-judgment, of evolution, right? Because you look back and you see this golden thread that runs through the life, like, oh, this is who I was. Oh, this happened for the reason it happened. This is what I learned from this. This is what I'm moving into. This is how that challenge helped to strengthen my talent. This is how my talent helped me move through my challenge, right? And so you're tapping in not just to the memory of the thing that happened. You're tapping into, like, the energetic signature of what's going on. And when we're tapping into that field, well, then very interesting things start happening. We start to understand who we are more. We start to understand the journey of our soul and what our soul has been evolving into. We start to understand who we are and why we've made the decisions and the choices and the, repeating patterns that seem to kind of come and haunt us. We also tap into, which was my story, our potential. When I went in that time, and yes, we did a lot of healing at that level. But one of the things that I learned, and I didn't know this before, was that I'm a teacher. but it never come into my field, and it was literally told to me in there. And what's funny, as an example, is 3 weeks later, I'd been a Reiki master. I'd done my Reiki master training probably 6 or 7 years before. 3 weeks after that reading, through no conscious thought, I ended up in my Reiki teacher training, which I'd never been interested to do before. And it was only afterwards that I was like, well, that was interesting that it came up. And then I just found myself doing it. And then it was about 3 months after that, I used to sit in psychic circle. And I was just one of the circle members. And then my teacher said to me, she's like, I'm not going to be around. Do you mind teaching a class? And I was like, sure. So I taught the class, and then it led me to teaching more classes. And it all opened up after that reading.
Oh my,
This is what happens, right?
wow. Yeah,
Mm.
that's incredible because it makes sense because um, I would imagine that everything we do is imprinted in some form, and it makes sense that it would be this Akashic record because a lot of people will speak about it in terms of, okay, I'm going to tap into this and I'm going to heal this past life, but it's more than that. It's almost um, this energetic lattice of evolutionary healing and the understanding behind every experience we have and the lessons behind it. It's almost like seeing it from that like bird's eye view, like the soul or spiritual perspective, and seeing it from a different lens and perhaps, okay, here's why this happened. And then when we're kind of tapping into this energetic field, I'm wondering, is there a way of navigating that if you're just getting into this? Like if somebody were to access this field, which they're constantly accessing at all, times, spaces and dimensions, what's an easy way to work with this field at the start, if you're just getting into it?
I'm going to give an answer that's probably different to if you spoke to anybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because from what I've learned about the field and what generally comes up is I'm working with the Akashic Records because I want to tap into a past life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, it's an incredible resource to be able to tap into past lives, but it's not, I don't think it's the only thing, and I don't think it's the most powerful thing we can do. I think the first thing is to actually just consider that we're constantly writing our records, okay, in every moment. And so if we can just conceptualize that it's almost like there's this little like cartographer, right, sitting there typing all the stuff. This is what she's doing, right? And we can assume that everything that's being written is now going to have an influence on us. And so just by having that conscious awareness and going, okay, what am I writing in my records right now? Is this something that I want written in my records right now? If the answer is yes, double down, go into gratitude, go into go into your visualizations, like start doing like all of this stuff. If the answer is no, there's two things. This is not about bypassing it because it's in there anyway, right? You're picking it up because it's already in there. So there's two things. One, we go into the invitation. Okay, so I have this self-belief. I have this self-talk, which is saying that I am whatever it is. Do I know that to be true? Ask that question because I'm writing it in my records. Do I want it in there? Not really. What's a better feeling thought right now? Where did this come from? How can I let this release from my system? Right? What's making me say this? We can start to get really curious about what we're tapping into and why, or what we're writing and why. And from there, you'll start to see that what then gets fed back to you is pretty different, right? We change our self-talk. We change the energy that sits behind it. I'll go one step further than that. The way that, from what I see, the way the records work is when something is, I'll use the word coded. So when it's recorded in different vibrational fields, right? So different emotional scale, right? You might
Mm-hmm.
be familiar with
David
Dr. David
Hawkins. Yeah.
Hawkins, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you're familiar with that scale, you know, all the way down from shame, when I record something in shame, it sits there like an ice block.
Mm-hmm.
Not to punish me, not because I've done anything bad, not because I should be ashamed of myself, just because it's a slow, heavy frequency. And it's there because there's something there that needs to be looked at. There's something that wants to be freed, that wants to be opened, right? It wants to move into enlightenment eventually, right? So if I'm coding myself in shame, it's really beginning to understand, how do I bring even a willingness to look at that? If you look at that scale, willingness is pretty high. It sits above neutrality, right? How am I willing to be in that? Am I willing to look at that? Am I willing to like admit to what's happened? Am I willing to even bring some love into this? Right? And what happens there from this Akashic field is the block of ice, when it's met with willingness, when it's met with neutrality, when it's met with acceptance, when it's met with gratitude even for the lesson that it gave me, when it's met with love for the part of me that allowed it, that record then moves and it like turns into like water or into gas or steam, depending on what's going on, which then gives that freedom, which then stops it from continually repeating on us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to work with it easy, that's where I'd begin.
It almost sounds like in any instance, if we don't like the pattern that we continue to repeat, just us thinking about that pattern and then saying, is this my truth? If it's not my truth, it's, hey, let me tap into this further. Let me actually feel this. Let me meet it with willingness. Let me meet it with love. Let me meet it with acceptance. Hey,
Yeah.
I put myself into this situation, or I attracted it based on what is in my Akashic records or what is within my energetic field. And maybe it's here for a lesson. So maybe asking, hey, what are the lessons behind this? So it's almost like just going through this and kind of reflecting on the circumstances or the experiences that limit us in any way, shape, or form is one way of tapping into this. And it's not like you're probably saying, let me tap into the Akashic records today. People could be tapping in at any moment in time, and they're obviously recording, and they are imprinting whatever experience in their reality into this, at every
Mhm.
moment in time. So, that's a much deeper understanding that I currently had. There's just ways of, some people will explain it and it sounds like, we're just talking about past lives and we're talking about different things like that. So that's a much deeper understanding. So, let's dive into if you want to do a Akashic reading, and we can kind of see what that entails, and
Mhm.
wherever you wish to take this, feel free.
Okay.
So you just
I'm gonna just start with a little caveat, right?
uh-huh.
That so I teach Akashic, to how to read the Akashic records,
Mhm.
right? But there's something I learned about that is that people, we can get lost in the story.
Uh-huh.
And probably if you've ever spoken to anyone who's had a past life reading, they're like, oh, I was Cleopatra in a past life and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And like everyone's been Cleopatra, and that's another story because we can talk about that. But what's happening when I attach onto the story is I'm now recreating the record,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm recreating it in the minute, in the moment. And when Akashic Reiki came through, there was something very important for me. For me, it is actually, how are we tapping into this field of unconditional love, of non-judgment, yeah, of pure acceptance, right? What happens. And this concept that everything that happened is an invitation into my growth.
Mhm.
Everything that's happening is asking me, I believe our purpose of life is to know who we are and to trust who we are, and we become who we are, right? So everything is an invitation into that, especially the things that feel hard, especially the things that feel painful, especially the things that, we're trying to bust through, right? They're an invitation into something. And the question that I asked myself was, how do we tap into that without getting lost in the story? Without having to be psychic, without having to, be able to verbally articulate what happened in the past life, right?
Mhm.
And what came through was this energetic frequency that comes straight through from the Akashic Records. It does tap into your past life. It does tap into the origin of the original record that comes in and anything that's come through that. And quite often the byproduct is you might understand what your past life was.
Okay.
But that's not where we go.
Mhm.
We go in through the feeling or the circumstance or the pain or whatever it is that you're currently feeling, because we know that that's coming up as an invitation into how do I become more of myself.
Okay.
I
I
feel
like that.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Okay.
So we would just need like an experience or a feeling to tap into, and then we dive deep.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Y-
Well,
So if okay, go.
um, did you want to say something?
Well, one quite easy way, so I don't put you on the spot,
Uh-huh.
is you can just go in your body and just tell me what's coming up. Like if there's a pain, if there's a sensation, if there's just something going on that's uncomfortable or loud
Okay.
for you.
Okay. It's just slight tension in the shoulders
Okay.
and the neck.
Okay. So just bring your awareness into that tension. Take a breath into it and just let yourself be with that tension, that feeling. And just notice what is happening at all times while we're here. If you get lost, just come back to the sound of my voice and the feeling that's happening in the shoulders. Okay. So I'm going to bring in the Akashic flame. So I'm bringing in the energetic frequency, so which is the bridge between us and the Akashic records. Okay. So you may or may not feel anything, either is fine. But as I bring this in, I just want you to really tune in to that feeling in your back. And just say to it, I see you. Just say to it, I feel you. Just say to it, I know you. And as you do this, you might notice that that feeling, that sensation, that pain, that tension just begins to change slightly. It may intensify, it may move, it may soften. All is fine. But just bring your awareness in. I see you, I feel you, I know you. And perhaps you can even just say in your mind, I'm willing to know you. I'm willing to know more about you. And then, Tim, I want you to get super curious. So I just want you, as you tune into this feeling, just ask it what it's there for. Ask it what it represents. And you can say it out loud or you can keep it in your mind, whatever feels good for you. So what do you represent? What are you here for? And as you ask that question, you may find that it just starts to give you some form of information. Maybe it's protection, maybe it's safety, maybe it's holding something that you don't want to bring through your body. That feels true for me. And I just want you to say to it, thank you. Thank you for holding me. Thank you for allowing me to see you now. Thank you for showing me what I need to know. And just notice what comes up. Feeling, sensation, visuals, memories, whatever it is. Just really listen. Get curious. And for any information or any sensation that comes, just say thank you. Begin to really listen and let it show you what it's there for. Any symbols, sounds, shapes, colors, feelings, movement, temperature, sensation. This is all valid. Show me what you're here for. And as the flame meets it, whatever it's telling you, bring your acceptance that it was here for a reason, that it's here to help, that the fact that this tension was there in your shoulders is leading you to this moment and leading you to the next without the need to change it, just to be with it. Now, when you're ready, we're going to bring in what I know to be your soul hologram. So this is a sensation or a representation of your soul. I see it as a Merkaba, a six-pointed star. You may experience it as something different. That's absolutely fine. We're just going to welcome in your soul hologram. This is the part of you that contains everything of who you are and who you're becoming. And we're going to let your soul hologram come and meet this aspect of you, meet this tension in your shoulders. And as they meet, you can begin to understand on a level that may be below your consciousness how this is helping you move into your divine blueprint, move into who you're becoming, move into knowing yourself better. Just let it be. What you've been holding on to that's ready to be integrated. What you've taken on that is no longer needed. What is a lesson that you've already learned time and again, that now you're here and ready to integrate into your system so that you can move with it, not from it. Just let that happen. The field knows exactly what to do. It's an intelligent field. Just give me a nod or a yes when you feel that process is complete. Okay. Okay, before we come back, we're just going to move into the future you. So this might be the you of 10 minutes time, 2 minutes time, 3 days time, or 3 years time. And I just want you to see, feel, know what the difference this has made, what change has made, what different self-talk, how are you moving differently? What are you doing? Who are you becoming? How are people speaking to you and how are you speaking to them? Just notice, just allow, you don't need to make it up. Just notice what's coming on. And then as that uploads, downloads in you, just let your breath come back into that sensation in the back of your body. Just notice what's changed. Bring your breath in, bring the breath to the belly, and come back in your own time. What's changed, Tim?
It's less tension. Felt a lot of energy moving through there, and I actually had a podcast earlier where there was a Reiki practitioner. She was on, and she noticed some tension in the shoulders and the neck, and I just knew I was carrying something, and I do energy clearing practices on a regular basis, but but I think some things just naturally come up
Sure.
at the right time, and I usually just um, have like clairsentience and just feel all the energies
Mhm.
moving through. I don't really see them or anything
That's okay.
like that,
Mhm.
but it felt like there was closure for certain energies, or more of a integration of the energies. Um, and something I learned recently was that we're not trying to get rid of our trauma. We're trying to move with it. We're trying to uh, have it become a part of us, but not determine our choices that are reflective of those wounds, and to move forward in a positive direction. So that was beautiful. Yeah, it's very interesting. Were you able to read anything from that field itself? Did you have any information coming through on your end?
Yeah, it felt to me like you may have heard, or if you listen to this back, there was a few statements, and it was this thing that there's something that you're carrying that you don't want to let in. And then as you went, there's two things here. There's one thing of what happened in the past, and there's one thing, well, how does that change who you are in the future, right? Or
Uh-huh.
and that will collapse into the moment. And so, actually, just a vision, if you like, that I had was of you as a small person. So I don't know if it was this life. I think it was one before, where it was. I saw it as like this a big person like coming and like shouting like on your back, and this brace. It was like this.
Mm.
And it was, and the sensation was like there was a feeling of fear, and I can't let that in. Like that was the thing. I can't let that in. I can't show that I'm scared. I'm just going to hold it. And it was like this brace
Mm.
position came. So that seemed to be an origin or an echo of where it came from. Okay, I can't let it in. That was the key. But as we begin to move forward, and I don't know what you felt, Tim, it is this how do I say it? It's this softening of personality. It's this willingness to be able to move into something that might feel like um harder work, or like I don't want to say danger, because I think that gives the wrong connotation, but this willingness to actually be able to take on more than you thought that you could take on.
Mhm.
But there's a difference between doing that in a I can do everything, which I kind of feel like maybe you hold, like I'm going to take on all this stuff and I'm getting it all done, I'm going to do it, right? Into more of a like a softer version of this, which is more I can take on like the one big hard thing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Rather than like stacking up all of the things, like I'm working really hard, like how much I can handle, kind of thing. That was like the flash of the future I saw.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where I feel like things are going, and really getting that clarity, kind of moving forward. So
Mhm.
that helps a lot. And
Good.
yeah, so that's beautiful. So that's how you're typically working with people with these Akashic Reiki healings. Is that
I mean, it's quite deep. So the Akashic Reiki training is over 12 weeks, right? And I'm working with psycho spiritual techniques, and it's a Reiki, right? So we're working the flame, the universal life force energy that's actually coming through the Akashic records, right? So this is one part. We can just do a pure hands-on healing, right? That is just coming through from the Akashic field. So we're looking at you as a soul, we're looking at you on a purpose driven path. That's really the frequency that we're expanding in you, like, so you're walking the purpose path. And quite often I don't tend to do like one-off sessions. We'll work in a block, because things come up, and then we start to go through some of the human aspects that are coming up. We start to actually integrate it. We see, feel, know what it is that we were and what it is that we were becoming. And what we're actually doing is we're recoding ourselves. I'm going to use your analogy, right? What you just said about that. It's not about like fixing our traumas. It's about integrating them. It's really interesting you say that, right? So how I see it is this: we have this soul that sits in the middle, right? Like this is the truth of who we are. This is everything that we've been and everything we're becoming. And what sits on top of that is what I know as our divine blueprint. So this is like the acorn, right? That sits there and goes, right, this guy is going to be an oak tree in this lifetime, right? So it contains all of the codes of everything that you're going to become. When these two are in alignment, we just become who we're going to become, right? We live our purpose path. But what happens is we experience life. And, you know, we make up stories about ourselves and we have these traumas and we have these experiences and we have our parents and all of these things. And they kind of come and sit on top, right? And I call them the overlays. So these can be traumas. They can just be beliefs. They can be our, you know, religion and our experience and our community and whatever. And they sit on top. And they're kind of like distorting the light that's coming from the soul through the divine blueprint. It's now refracting through different colors, lenses. But what happens for most of us in our life, especially in our early life, is we begin to live through these, what I call the overlays. They become our identities, right? Oh, well, I'm just lazy, or oh, I'm a hard worker, or oh, I'm a Virgo, or whatever it is that we identify as. And they become our identity, and we stop tapping into this. Right? So what I'm interested in is we use these, like you just did with your shoulders, right? We use these as the entry points. Oh, this is the light codes is what it came up with. This is the story I'm telling myself. This is the thing that's showing up for me now. This is the identity I'm working with. This is my psychology in charge. I'm going to use that as my entry point. To discover more, right? So that I can then really tap into this field and I can activate that. And as I do this, I'm not trying to get rid of it at all. I'm going, hey, I've got an experience here that is leading me to know myself more. And as I do this, I integrate it and then it like forms a part of my puzzle. It kind of now sits underneath it. So it's doing two things. No longer is it covering my lens, right? No longer is it now I see the world through blue or green or yellow, right? But also it's making my light brighter. It's making my light stronger. So that eventually we are working from this point. And it actually happens very quickly when we're working at this level, because your soul wants to live its purpose. Your soul wants to the universe wants you to live your purpose, because as you live yours, I live mine, everyone's happy, right? So we've got all of these forces conspiring with us to help us with that. But most of us are so caught in our psychology, in the lenses in which we see the world, that we miss the point.
Wow. Yeah, it kind of brings up a few things just from the different energy bodies, like the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy bodies, and the different layers of, let's call them distortion or overlays that you were just discussing. Would it be like tapping into, let's say, the physical body, you're seeing where that heaviness is, and then for emotions, where am I still overreacting or unconsciously reacting? And I have these emotions that maybe there's resistance to certain emotions, or you have emotional outbursts. So where's there dysregulation there? So physically, emotionally, and then mentally, the thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, about how we see our reality, the stories we tell. Those would be three lenses from which we could tap into the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
And each time, I guess we're bringing up the memory. We're saying, "I see you, I feel you, I know you," and really just kind of allowing those energies to move through us, and then calling in that Akashic flame, bringing our soul essence or spirit to basically merge with us and merge with that particular experience. That would be a way of going about this, and maybe sending that love and acceptance and willingness
Yeah.
to face these overlays. Would that be the
Right.
evolution of the healing process, is going through all of those overlays and looking at the different patterns that are showing up physically, mentally, and emotionally? Would that be a way to kind of evolve the healing process where you're not trying to get rid of this stuff, but
Yeah.
you're having it become a part of you?
Exactly. Like, if you look at any model of healing from the medical model of healing through my psychotherapy work, right? You go, or a psychology degree, you go and do a psychology degree, there will be one module, if you're lucky, on spirituality and one module on happiness. Everything else is, you've got a problem, this is how we fix it.
Mhm,
Yeah, you go to a doctor, they're like, well, you've got this problem, this is how you fix it. Right? You go to a therapist, what's the problem? Okay, well, this is how you fix it. Like, and this is the model that we have all been indoctrinated into, right? But what I've learned through the Akashic lens is none of these are problems. They're symptoms, right? They're not nice. You don't want them. No one wants the pain in the shoulder or the emotional overreaction or the, mental loops that happen. We don't want them. But they're not broken in themselves. They're a symptom, right? They're a product of something else. Yeah.
mhm,
And like how I see it actually with the mental, emotional, physical body is, if you think about how energy turns into matter, it starts as an energy, right? From a human point of view, it starts as an energy. It moves into a thought, right? A thought is like a high, you can't grab it, you can't touch it. A feeling is like slightly heavier, like you can feel it. You can't really touch it, but you can feel it. You know it's there. There's a sensation. And then that moves into the physical, right? Which is
mhm,
the matter. It just all of this is a slowing down of energy, if you like, or,
mhm,
it turns into matter. So actually, we can use any of these entry points to come back and forward through them, right?
mhm,
And for me, I'm interested, actually in Akashic Reiki, we've got quite a few somatic practices in there as well. We do some eye work, we do some body work. Why? Because each of these points is another layer of the energy body that's sitting at the front of it. But the energy body is where we're doing the recode. It's where we're doing the work, so it creates that lasting change. Okay.
mhm,
For me, well, what that's doing is it's helping us integrate more. It's getting to the root of what we're doing so that it stops feeding us these thoughts, emotions, physical aspects. And if we're treating the physical, it's also not then, creating the record, because now I'm in pain all the time and I'm hating life and all of this stuff, right? So it all works together. But I think the deeper layer of that is really flipping this story on the head of, well, I've got a problem and I need to fix it. When Akashic Reiki came through me, one of the big metanoias, like realizations that I had was, okay, healing is not about fixing anything. Healing is really a form of evolution. Because then I'm really coming into that. It's helping me become more of who I am and less of who I am not.
mhm,
And that is how we grow. This is a continual path, because if you look to nature, we're either growing or we die, right?
mhm,
And so is it not this question? You had a Reiki healer on earlier. Why was the earth given Reiki, right? I don't think God or the divine or whatever was up there going, look at those humans, they're all broken. Let's send them this down to fix it. I think they were like, there's this infinite force that is creative so that they can become. And look, in the 100 years since it came, how we've evolved. Like in the last 10 years, how we've evolved in consciousness as humanity. I think this is what we want to tap into when we're talking about healing.
mhm.
who am I becoming? How am I becoming? How do I come into pure acceptance of who I am? And I know that I'm still moving, not acceptance of, oh, this is my lot, I'm done, right? I accept who I am. I'm grateful for who I am. I love where I am. And tomorrow and the next day and the next day, I'm moving and I'm moving and I'm growing. For me, that's life and that's purpose.
Yeah, it becomes more of a journey instead of a destination.
Right.
And we could call it the ascension, the awakening journey. We could call it just the life journey, the life path. And
Hmm.
it's really for, if creation comes into being all simultaneously. Let's say the creator wants to know more of itself, because if you're the creator and you know everything, you don't know what probably heart break feels like. You probably don't know what certain things. So what better way than to do it through consciousness, through us experiencing heartbreak? Because if you're the creator, you already know, okay, this situation's going to unfold in a bad manner, and I already know all of these things that are going to transpire. So as I kind of speak about it, I think the creator would probably know what heartbreak is, but uh, if you're infinite and you're radiant and this just divine, unconditional field of love, I think that's who we are, and it's
Yeah.
stripping away the layers of illusion. But in this case, it's, instead of stripping away, it's actually kind of having that become a part of us. Like, and that's knowing more of who we are by knowing more of who we are not, by all of these things. So it's a beautiful journey. So I mean, that's just amazing. Where do you see humanity going on this path of evolution that we're currently on? Like, how do you see things playing out? I suppose if you're tapping into the field, um, can you tap into these future scenarios, and can you tap into kind of where humanity is going?
It's very interesting when you start thinking about future prediction. And as a psychic, which was part of my original training, I can tell you that actually what we're doing is we're looking at how the past has influenced the present and then what your likely future
Hmm.
steps are. But we know that in any moment we can change that. All you need is a new thought. All you need is a aha moment, right? All you need is this metanoia that's going to be like, oh my God, the thought that changed everything. And now I'm going into a new path. Or maybe you go back and you do the healing and you no longer carry that, right?
Mm.
And so actually, I don't think the future is predictable, really. Like you can find the likely timelines. But for me, it's more what I see happening in the spiritual space and why there's um n- speaking now about healing is not about being broken. Healing is about evolution. Why concepts like Akashic Reiki, like I didn't go looking to create a new healing modality. It came, right? Why are these things coming? Because we're being invited into more. And, conversations like this are happening more and more and more. Yeah, I'm having conversations like this every single day, which didn't happen 10 years ago. People would be like, Melissa, you're nuts. Like, what's going on? Like, what are you talking about? Now, even the kids are talking I've got 3 boys, like young boys. They're talking about that they've got aura, and all of this is coming into our everyday language, right?
Mm.
And so when we are moving in consciousness, I can tell you the consciousness of the planet is rising, which is why also people are having these spontaneous and very quick awakenings in these dark nights of the souls, which are coming, and then they're coming out and they're like, oh, I'm alive. And I think the more of us that tap into that is how we're going to create the biggest change. Yeah, I don't pay attention really. I don't give my attention really to kind of what's going on the world stage. That's not where I am here to make a big difference. For me, it's about how do we get the people who have the channel, right? Who have the skill, who have the heart, who want to make positive impact in the world. How do we actually get them to hold power? Because Tim, I have spoken to so many healers and I go, you know, you can hold a lot of power and I remember once hosting this workshop and going to them all, you're the most powerful people in the room. And everyone kind of recoiled because they're like, oh no, power is bad. And I'm like, if the healers can't hold power, we're stuffed,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, it's about really integrating that journey, right? So the healers being able to hold power. And then the other side of it is the people who are of influence in the world, you know, whoever they are, to actually start bringing in this spiritual intelligence, right? And I see it happening. You see it even in, you know, different industries but the conversations are starting to happen. And I'm all for that. So I think it's taking healing out of the fringes, right? Bringing it really into mainstream, which you see crystal shop on every, like, I don't know about where you are, there's crystal shops on all the high streets and, you know, people doing tarot readings and all of this stuff, destigmatizing all of it, letting the healers hold the power and bringing this spiritual intelligence in a very grounded way, to the people who are already, you know, on the bigger stages, if you like.
Oh,
We do that and like we're in this, you know, the positive, if you like, new world that people have been foreseeing for the last 14 years.
yeah. It seems like every industry is being influenced in some way, shape, or form by the evolution of consciousness
Hmm.
that's currently occurring because there's just more people that are speaking their truth. There's more people
Hmm.
that are speaking up for what they believe is right and what they believe is wrong, even though at the end of the day, that's still that layer of judgment that we're saying that things are right or wrong. But in this higher evolutionary perspective, it seems like it just is. It just is experience itself, and there are lessons through the let's call them the wrongdoings.
Hmm. Yes.
And it's perhaps just seeing it from a different perspective. So I think that would be very reassuring for the listener to see that the things that have happened in their life, it's it's not a bad thing. It is an experience that has shaped who they are, and they can change that at any time by tapping into these thoughts, these feelings behind the experiences and healing that. So that's a beautiful way to look at it. And what would you define as, I would call it divine power, because oftentimes um we see, politicians and organizations with a lot of power, but they're not using it in the right way. Would
Hmm.
it be just simply allowing for this infinite field of intelligence to flow through everything you think, feel, and do? And
Yeah.
maybe beyond that?
I mean, it's a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And we're all going to have our own perspective of what that is. But I think it's a few things. It's this divine intelligence that is there for everyone. This great mind, right? We all tap into the same great mind, and some of us have more of these, you know, overlays sitting on top that are distorting that. And so it's a few things. It's one, really understanding what is, it's all divinity, yes, and really understanding what's being received to like the soul self and what's being received through the lenses and what actions we're taking from that. That's that for me. Like when I'm working with a client in like a mentorship capacity, like that's where we get good at first. Let's learn the difference between like truth and not truth.
Mhm.
Yeah, like what's really driving me. But this, I think part of that from, you know, from a general point of view is getting good at spiritual intelligence, just inviting in spiritual intelligence, just knowing that there's maybe something bigger that's guiding me and wondering what that is, just bringing that contemplation in. That alone starts to make change. Um, it like it's simple, but it's not so easy. But I want to say one thing, because you said about how these organizations hold power. The distinction I'd make, and this does come from David Hawkins' work, is the difference between power and force.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if we can get really good at, am I coming from power or am I coming from force? Like, am I coming from that centered, grounded, infinite, like, yes, like, this is good. How do we know this is the light coming through? This is good for me. This is good for us. This is good for all. That's power. If it comes from like, yeah, you might have had an inspiration, then you're like, I got this now. I don't need your help anymore. I've got this. And then you're just coming from your like IQ, your EQ and your PQ, like your physical intelligence, your emotional intelligence. You've got no spiritual intelligence. Well, now we're moving into force because now we don't have that channel. So it keeps coming back into it, not you bypassing it, because it's come through you for a reason. It's come through your model of the world for a reason, but not rejecting the source of where it came from,
Mm-hmm.
right? For me, if we can get good at that, then why don't we? Of course we want to hold power. Power is channeling the divine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely uh, that word is often overused, power, because if
Mhm.
you look at it from David Hawkins' perspective, it's completely different. Most people are trying to force outcomes. They're trying to control and manage life, and they just keep pushing forward, and they wonder why they're burnt out and disconnected. And it seems like actually tapping into this fourth level of intelligence, that we would call that SQ, or spiritual intelligence, that's where we allow the divine to flow through us. That's where we allow our spirit and our soul to actually flow through all of our creations. And that's how we transform the world, because the
For sure.
inner is a reflection of the outer. And if you look within and and you feel these overlays and you see these overlays and you understand why they're there, it it allows you to have that deeper understanding of
For sure.
yourself and life itself. So that's beautiful. And do you have any last words for the audience that you would like to leave them with?
A concept that I really land into whenever I'm in, my psychology and in my self-doubt, and because it still comes, right, is this reminder that like we're all perfectly made, right? We were made for a reason with our unique psychology and our unique human design and our astrology and the way we see the world and our desires, our talents, our strengths, all of these things, and our challenges. And I think when we can really land into that and know that, okay, what happened, and I'm moving and I'm growing, and today I have a choice of what I'm doing with that and how, if I'm not one to say everything happens for a reason, but if this was an invitation into something, if this was helping me grow into something more, if this was helping me become a more true human, right? A more true person, or to live more from love, what would it be teaching me? Yeah. What would I be doing with it? And just bringing myself back to that question. From there, when we can make our choices and make our decisions, I think it comes from that place of much more empowerment, much more true, much more power. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I think we can really start to move into what we're becoming.
I love that. That's amazing. And where can people find your work, and the Akashic Reiki training that you have going on? Is that all on your website and social media pages?
Yeah, you can find me across the social media channels. I'm at the Melissa Amos.
Okay.
There's an Akashic Reiki website, which is akashicreiki.org. Or you can find me on my website, which is melissa-amos.com.
Okay. Perfect. I will link all of that in the show notes, and I really appreciate having you on. You're a fountain of wisdom, and I learned quite a bit off of this just our episode, and I'm sure the viewers are going to get so much out of this. So thank you so much for your time and energy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, we will stay tuned. Let us know in the comments what was your favorite part of the episode, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.